Okay, I'm going to start this off quick. Day 106, rise and shine. The world is colored like an Easter egg this morning on the day before Easter. And she is rising right now. I'm not always here quite early enough to catch this moment. I'm usually on my way though. But man, the colors are just amazing. Look at those blues and greens and purples. The world really does. The colors of Easter eggs are here. Wowza. That is quite a sight. So it is Saturday, April 16th, and it's starting to warm up a little bit. I got just one of my little yoga jackets on. And it is the day after Good Friday and the day before Easter. And for those that believe in Jesus or are followers, this is it. This is our, like, if Easter isn't what it is, and Jesus isn't who he says he was, then it's all like farce and ridiculous. And I believe. So this is it. As wonderful as Christmas and other holidays and traditions are, Easter's where it's at. And if you don't, that's okay too. I've shared with you all. It's been a journey and a process for me to get here. I was very skeptical for a long time. Look at that. And I slowly waded into the waters of, oh, maybe it's possible, maybe. And now I'm like in the deep end. I've jumped in, all in, like, let's just go for it. And hence, even this year, and my whole, I know people are kind of finding me along the way. And so the year of 2022, God gave me the words, rise and shine, for a lot of different reasons. Some of which I didn't even know when I was kind of agreeing to it. And, or I might not have agreed to it. Isn't that how he often works? If I really knew what I was getting into. But I am committed for this year, every morning, getting up and getting outside and seeing the sunrise. Now, of course, weather permitting, we don't always see it rise, but we always see the effects of it, which is amazing. And I'm also reading the Bible for the first time, cover to cover, and really taking time and meditating on it. I'm not reading any other, like, anybody else and their devotions and their interpretation of it. It's just going straight to the source and letting it speak to me and my heart, and really think about what I've just read that morning means to me. And also, having become a life coach in the last year and building that business, and for many of us coaches that are out there, we know we've already been coaches for a long time. We just didn't know. Anywho, I'm not going to talk about that. Well, the only reason I mention it is because we all have the ultimate life coach in the Bible. Like, it's all in there. All the principles I've learned with positive psychology and life coaching, it's there. So that's sort of what I'm doing every day, is kind of relating and pulling the practical out. I'm a boots on the ground kind of person. As much as I am dreamy and visionary, it's got to make sense here on the ground, on the earth. And I got to know what to do with it. So I'm very practical with my dreaminess, if that makes sense. And I don't want to learn something just for the sake of an academic exercise. Tell me what to do with it. Anyway, so this morning was Psalm 135. Yes. And I was so excited to read it because right in the middle of it was a repetition of a section of a previous psalm that had actually captured my attention. And I didn't get to spend much time on it that day. So now that's what I'm doing. So, and it's such an appropriate one for Easter. It is talking about idols and how they're made by man of silver and gold, and they have eyes but can't see, ears but can't hear, noses but can't smell, all of that. And then it goes on to say, just like those who make them and trust in them. There's some words that'll just preach on their own. Look at that, how beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. That'll preach right there. And I know I can relate to that because before I became even a baby Christian, when I first opened my mind to the possibility, I was like, oh, maybe. And then as, it's been a slow crawl. It took a long time for me to even get up and learn how to toddle a little. And I still feel like I'm now just learning how to walk a little because I was doing things in my life like consuming wine on a daily basis. Nothing that would be considered out of the ordinary or normal. It's very normal. But doing things that were numbing me out. They were just interfering with my brain waves and how I was experiencing life. And so even though I had the life of Jesus in me and that belief and that hope, I wasn't fully living either. I was kind of caught in between with my own physical habits of, low energy that was causing, just all those things that just get in the way. And even look at this. Oh my gosh, those of you that are watching, that's beautiful, beautiful. And the water's just still like glass, like it was yesterday. And, a lot of times our comfort-seeking ways, and everybody does it. I'm not alone. So there's no shame in this game. It's part of our journey as humans to find that sweet spot, the balance, where you can feel fully alive spiritually and physically. I think that we really are spiritual beings having a physical or human experience. But if we go too far one way and go too far the other way, we miss. It doesn't never feel quite right. And, you've met probably uber spiritual people who just really don't live in the physical world at all and try to pretend like it doesn't exist and, whatever. I don't think that extreme way of living quite works either. You've got to kind of find that balance. And if you're too human and too fleshly, which the Bible talks a lot about, then that causes problems in your spiritual walk as well. It's like finding, and I think that's what we humans, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing for our whole life. It's like trying to find that sweet spot, and we'll find it for a moment, and then it's like, it can be elusive. And each person, I think, it's going to be a little bit different because we're all created so differently. We all have different energy levels, different intellect, different physical capabilities. So, and then we look at each other, which is totally natural, and go, well, what they're doing works, so let me try to duplicate that. But then it doesn't quite work for us. And then we might give up or get frustrated, and we don't really find that sweet spot. And I love David, even the author of most of the Psalms, he seemed to get it, even by demonstrating, taking off the armor when he went against Goliath and said, no, God created me with my life experience and my talents to be able to kill Goliath with a slingshot and an arrow. I don't know how to wear armor and do all this. Like, that's not me. And so he was able to find his sweet spot of being alive and not trying to walk in anybody else's armor or anybody else's ways. And he knew who God was. He knew whose he was in God. Like he kind of found that sweet spot. And when he got off track, we learned about that too and how that worked out for him. But when you're in that sweet spot or in that zone, don't you feel like alive? Like you have a whole different kind of energy about you, an excitement and aliveness. And when we get too caught up in our earthly or human existence, it can be draining and exhausting. But when you've got the right sort of combination of your spiritual and your flesh, even when on your busy days, you can like handle it better. And I'm trying to put this into words because it's like, it's one of those things that you've got to like experience to know it. And in order to experience it, you've got to be willing to experiment. And that's, I think, where a lot of adults, especially, we lose that playfulness, that sense of adventure, that sense of, let's just play with life here a little bit and find what works for me. And for some of you, you know, you hear me say God and Jesus, don't get too distracted by that. I'm just being true to my beliefs. But whatever, you know, there's something bigger happening, I do believe. And I think we have a lot of evidence for that, should you choose to notice it. And a lot of us don't. Like, that's a lot of times where habits like overeating, overeating, over shopping, over TV watching, over social mediaing, over scrolling, whatever it is, over drinking, that's where a lot of those things come in. We're just totally caught in the human level of things. Like, let's just have fun, but it's not really all that fun. And yet every day you're like, well, maybe I just didn't do it quite right or quite enough. Let's do more. And you know, it just doesn't work. I know, been there, done that. I went, Uncle, I give up. Let's go over here and try this way. I've opened my mind. I've become very curious, and I'm going to go and try it this way. But even over here, I'm not too stuck and too married to any certain way of doing it other than, well, at least for this year, the rising and shining. But every morning looks different. And there is just part of one of the little epiphanies or light bulbs that just came on this morning, but maybe got a little brighter in my head was self-care. And as women, we often don't get this message correct. It's all about caring and serving for others, caretaking, and which is all good. But the best way to serve is by taking good care of yourself. And that is actually a discipline. It's a spiritual discipline, because we can't fully unleash the spirit in its full capacity unless we're really taking good care of the physical body. And that is a balance. Some people overdo it, like they're so focused on their physical bodies that they can't let the spirit in. They block the spirit. It's all about how we look, our image. You know, it's just, again, I think there's a sweet spot there. And that's going to look different for different people. So it's not about achieving a look, although sometimes those are, you know, good side benefits. But it's about honoring the fact that we really are in a physical body, but we're not limited to that. Like the scripture says, we're not, if we choose to tap into it. Here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. Because when we live only in the physical world, I think that's where we have eyes, but we don't really see. We have ears, but we're not really hearing and picking up on things. Like being overly physical or overly fleshly, you miss the bigger thing that's happening. But if you're over here being way too spiritual and you're not taking care of your physical vessel that your spirit is tied to, then you can become so distracted by physical ailments, energy levels, different things that can affect and inflict the body, that we limit the spirit. So it's like this balance. At least that is the message I'm getting. And maybe partly because even though I do this every morning and I take time for this, I got a little bit off track this week. I added more to my plate than I didn't have very, very good balance this past week. And yesterday I kind of crashed. And some people may look at my schedule and go, well, that's not hard. That's not that hard. Well, you're not me, and you're not created with my experience of life and my energy limitations. And then sometimes when I'm overly worked or I have too much on my plate, just like anybody else, my way to handle it is to maybe have, an extra few bites of food, watch a little more TV than I normally would, and not getting as much sleep. And then that shows up, and then that's limiting me. Even though my efforts were to take care of me. And I did need to do that. I needed to unplug. So now, because of my new attitude towards all of this, and then it's all just figuring it out, and I'm going to take some extra time as I'm looking at my schedule this coming week and make sure that it is a little bit better serving me so that I can serve others to the best of my ability and serve God and how He created me. Is that making sense? I know I feel like I'm talking a long time this morning. So I'm going to kind of leave it there and leave you to ponder what this really means to be alive versus existing. And I think that's where we can get, if we get caught too much in existence in the physical sense and just going through the motions, we miss out on that sweet spot of just feeling alive and being able to tap into that, what seems like sometimes that endless source of energy and excitement and joy, because we haven't found that balance. We're maybe either overdoing it too much in one way or another. Anyway, I swear it's kind of like, it really is the colors of like Easter. Beautiful. Nature inspired. All right. Have a great day, everybody. And think about times when you've felt alive versus just existing and making it through a day. Because I think we do have a choice. And it's up to us to figure out how to design our own lives and live and find what that sweet spot is for us, so that you can fully serve life, God, your fellow man, all to the best of your ability and potential. All right.